Greetings from Tokyo, my dear friends, my dear friends. This is Daisuke, and please, I hope you are all having a lovely, lovely day today, wherever you are in the world. I want to take this opportunity to provide to you some updates with respect to this particular channel and things that are going on, and yeah, let's go from there. So just a matter of housekeeping more than anything else, at this moment in time, which is around the midpoint or after the midpoint of January 2019, I have still yet to upload the final videos in my overview of the Ingmar Bergman's cinema box set from the Criterion Collection. And that is simply because I have run into some technical issues with respect to the audio of the videos that I had already shot. And so I think I will, I probably want to redo them anyway, because I think there might be some more things I would like to say about the remaining issues that I wanted to cover, namely Centerpiece 2, Centerpiece 3, and Closing Night, and also the supplements and special features, and also other closing remarks about this remarkable, glorious, historic release from the Criterion Collection. And so I will try to put those up later in the week, so I ask for your patience on that. I apologize for the delay. I sincerely apologize. The next thing I wanted to say is I am very excited about this, and I'm excited because I have been very fortunate and very lucky to have been asked to be part of this network, which is called the 25th Frame. The 25th Frame. Now, the 25th Frame is this new network that started very recently, so it's still in its infancy, so to speak. But it's a network of movie and film related or cinema related podcasts and podcast shows. And at the moment, they are mostly comprised of podcast shows, and I am the only YouTube channel in there, but hopefully there will be more. But it's in a sense, it's a network which has a web page, so all those shows are gathered in one place, and you can access them in one place, and everyone is basically friendly with each other, and there is no I think there is a Patreon option. I'm kind of embarrassed, I don't quite know the exact details yet, but you can still access the podcast without necessarily being a Patreon member, and of course you can listen to some great content and some great commentary from other film fans and film critics and other observers, very keen observers of cinema, and the like. So you have this great network that is collected into one centralized area, and you can access these wonderful shows and click and play and subscribe and do all that to your liking. And I have been very fortunate to have been asked to be a part of that. So I will have my little corner there in that centralized network space. So that's very exciting for me. It's very exciting because it means that I will be able to share directly my feelings about cinema, and I will be able to share the space with other great podcasts. And I've spoken about most of them on this channel already, but let me just tell you what they are. And I'm a big fan of them. I was always a big fan of them to begin with, and this last year, since I started this, I was very fortunate, incredibly lucky to have been able to meet many of these people and become acquainted with them further as the months progressed. And so I was very, very lucky. And I've mentioned these podcasts before, and I'm a big fan of them, and I'm a subscriber to all of them, and I'm a big supporter of them. So to be asked to be a part of this network is a real honor, and I'm very humbled. But let me just tell you what the podcasts are. So there's Criterion Now, and this is with Aaron West and Mark Herney. two really nice guys, Criterion Now. They talk mostly about recent news with respect to the Criterion Collection. So as some of you, you probably know the podcast already. So Criterion Now. And then there's The Magic Lantern. The Magic Lantern is with Cole Rullane and Erica Long, and I've spoken about this podcast many times, and it is a brilliant podcast. I would strongly urge you to listen to their podcast, in particular about female trouble. I think that one is a really lovely one. Okay, and then the third one is called Film Baby Film, and this is by a really a wonderful gentleman called John Lobinger. And Mr. Lobinger has such a great rapport, and he has such a down-to-earth style, and yet at the same time he has a real depth of cinema, and he has a real wonderful way of interacting and interviewing his guests. Film Baby Film, fantastic. They had a great episode about their favorite films of 2018, and it was an epic long episode, and it was great because they went over their films, and there were many that I had not heard of, even in the general conversation of greatest or favorite films from 2018. So if you can, I recommend you check out that episode. It's a long one, but everything is worth it. So next is the great podcast, which is called The Complete, and The Complete is it is by my two dear friends called Matthew Gasteyer and Travis Trudell. I was going to say Travis Bickle there for a second, but Travis Trudell. And so they come together, and the theme of the podcast is they go over each film of a particular filmmaker one at a time. The previous seasons dealt with Stanley Kubrick's filmography and Elaine May's filmography, respectively, and each film was fantastic. And within that season, they would go and devote an episode per film. So it was really wonderful. And so Stanley Kubrick had a pretty long run, and Elaine May, relatively shorter filmography, granted, but each episode was fantastic. Now, the current season, or the season that's coming up next, season 3, I suppose, is going to be on the works of Krzysztof Kieślowski. So, as you know, Kieślowski does the Decalogue and the Three Colors trilogy, Trois Couleurs, which are very famous, I think, especially among Criterion enthusiasts, because those are part of the Criterion collection. But, of course, there are many others. And so this is going to be a fantastic series, because Kieślowski is a powerful voice in cinema. And if you haven't seen the Decalogue yet, please just stop what you're doing right now and go out and get it, because it is truly a one-of-a-kind, epic and intimate exploration over the span of many hours, and it is so worth it. But in any event, this is to say that Matt and Travis's podcast, The Complete Kieślowski, is going to be up very soon. So this will be incredibly exciting, and I'm looking forward to this very much. So please take a look, or have a listen, as it were. Next is the podcast called Good Times, Great Movies. And again, I've spoken about this lovely podcast before. And this is by my dear friend Douglas McCambridge and Jamie Lorello. And Douglas McCambridge, I should say, designed a logo for me very recently. And some of you may have seen this logo in a little trailer that I was I haphazardly put together. But Douglas McCambridge, and he had that great kind of three-colored glasses motif, and he had my name there in the kind of Cadillac font, so it was really nice to see, and I was very grateful for him. But he's not only a great designer, but he's also a wonderful enthusiast about cinema. And I've talked about his podcast and Jamie's podcast many times. But Good Times, Great Movies is one of the great podcasts about 80s cinema. And they talk about all sorts of cinema. I think they're talking about Bloodsport. But my favorite episodes have to be about, they talked about, Sleepaway Camp and Jaws 3. Two films that I actually love to bits. I really love those films, and I love their conversation about those two. And they also have some other great episodes there. This is all to say that I really love Good Times, Great Movies. This is a blast to listen to, and I always laugh out loud, and I have to hold in my laughter because I'm always listening to it on the train ride between my home and my work, and so I can't laugh out loud because it's not a good thing to do on a crowded Japanese train in Tokyo subways. So, but it's very, very funny and very enlightening, and it's so charming, and I always smile. And Jamie and Doug, they have such a lovely rapport, and it's like a warm blanket, you know. So. Check out their episodes in particular on Sleepaway Camp and Jaws 3 if you can. Good Times, Great Movies. And then there's the Criterion Close-Up. So this is also, I think, the earlier show that Mark Herney and Aaron West did on aspects of the Criterion Collection. Now, the Criterion Close-Up show, I think, differs from Criterion Now in that, while both shows deal with the Criterion Collection films, Criterion Close-Up deals more with a wider reach. So it doesn't necessarily focus on the recent stuff, if you know what I mean. So there's a lot of stuff going on in Criterion Close-Up. And the Criterion Close-Up podcast was one that I listened to from the very beginning. And I love the show, and I'm glad to see it make its return, so to speak. There are some great projects that they did. I think it was in that podcast form, if I'm not mistaken, where they were talking about early 20th century French films, French cinema. There was also some great discussion about what they called gross out films. These are films that have a certain violence or a certain intensity with respect to its subject matter. So they dealt with that subject matter in a very straightforward and I think very enlightening way. And they also had some great episodes, one-offs on separate films. I think they had an episode on 12 Angry Men at some point, and they had an episode, I think it was, they talked about David Cronenberg at one point. So that's all to say that the Criterion Close-Up show is one where I think there's a wide range of discussion with respect to the Criterion Collection, not just the recent stuff, although that's a part of it there as well. So Criterion Close-Up, so Aaron and Mark, well done. And please take a listen to that if you haven't done so already. And last, but certainly not least, this is, I think, a new show that at the point in time of this video, I don't think has been launched yet, but it will be launched very soon, I hope, and I look forward to listening to the very first episodes. This is called Movies Silently. Okay, Movies Silently. This is a podcast by Fritzi Kramer. Now, I understand that Fritzi Kramer has a very, I know that she has a very large Twitter presence, and she is incredibly knowledgeable, and in particular here, incredibly knowledgeable about silent film. Silent film. Now, I've spoken with a lot of you out there, a lot of my friends out there who have come to me privately and have asked me about my take on silent films and, showing me films that they bought. My friend Luke at Razor Wire Reviews and I were talking about certain films that he had bought recently, and there are some silent films in there from the BFI that I had never seen before. So that is all to say that my silent film knowledge base is, it's not the greatest in the world. It's okay, I would say, but it's not the greatest in the world. So to have conversations with you, of course, who are much more knowledgeable about silent films than I, is a real great thing. But to have Fritzi come here and to give us her podcast about silent films in this podcast called Movies Silently. This is very, very exciting indeed, and it should be exciting to all of you out there in particular who are into silent films. And from what I gather, I haven't heard the podcast yet, but I think my sense is that she is really going to go down to the nitty-gritty stuff, like the real detailed stuff. and going into the history and all that stuff, going into the weeds, so to speak. And I think that's great. I think that's great. I think the more detail and the more what's the phrase? Geekiness. I think that's great. I'm looking forward to that. And if you are a fan of silent film, I think you should have this show on your radar for sure. For sure. Okay, so movies silently. Okay, I think that's all of the shows on the 25th frame. Yeah. Okay, yes, so that is. And of course, there's this channel, Daisuke Beppu. So what does this mean for this channel here, and what does it mean going forward for me? And the answer to that is absolutely no change as far as I'm concerned. There's no, I don't do, at this point in time, I don't do anything like Patreon. I don't do anything of that sort. I have turned on ads for my channel here because I was very fortunate to have been able to do so. But that is something that I've done, and I've tried to do it in a way to cause as little inconvenience to you as possible. And it's not something that would mean that you'd have to pay me directly or anything like that. So, but it's just a little bit of a little something that I can get. It's not much, but it's just a little something, so I can, maybe I can get an extra Blu-ray or something like that, every 6 months or something. So. So I've done the monetization part of this YouTube channel, but there's no Patreon stuff that I do, nothing of that sort. And my joining of the 25th Frame network will mean no change. There's nothing that's going to change going forward as far as my videos here are concerned. It's just, again, my ability and my good fortune to be able to share a little space with these great, what's the phrase? This great cast of characters. And believe me, it's just a wonderful thing to have all these shows. And they are very varied, I think. And hopefully there will be more to come. I'm not sure, but maybe it will grow. And so that means you can go to the 25th Frame website, which will be presented below, and just take a look. And you can listen, and if something is to your liking, please, by all means, follow those people and go forward. If there's no pressure or anything like that. There's nothing that is with a fee. And again, for me, it's not. There's no kind of. It's not like I'm pushing something and I'm getting something in return for no. There's nothing like that at all, as far as I know. But my understanding is this: I'm just part of this group, and I can share this little space where we can talk all about film and cinema. So it's kind of this little feeling of goodwill and collectivism. So I'm very much happy to be a part of that. But that don't worry, because that won't mean any change as far as this channel is concerned, because it is really my pleasure and my privilege just to be able to continue to talk with you and to learn from you and to be enlightened by you and to be educated by you. And to learn about all things. I've been getting some great stuff, great info about Czech cinema. I've been getting some great info about South Korean cinema. My goodness, a lot of great stuff, a lot of great, modern South Korean cinema. I should really say, I've been inspired very recently to try to get into South Korean cinema again, and that's thanks primarily to the viewers. It's really wonderful. I used to be into South Korean cinema back in the day. Do you know the film Christmas in August, right? What's that? How do you say that in Korean? It's Parol Christmas, I think. Forgive me for my poor pronunciation. That had Shim Eun-ha and Han Suk-kyu, if you recall. And they also, remember, they were together again in that really wonderful, bloody, messy masterpiece called Tell Me Something, which I really loved. That was a great one, and that had the great music video, if you recall, on the DVD at the time. I will always be a great fan and admirer of Shim Eun-ha. So I was a big fan of Korean films or South Korean films around that time, Shitty and all that. So I was a big fan of that, but at some point I had to stop because I had to move and I had to deal with my own life, and so I couldn't devote any time to that. But maybe I will try to get back into South Korean cinema because, of course, ever since then, the explosion of this South Korean cinema wave, a new wave or a new wave or a modern wave, as it were, it's just gotten greater and greater and greater, of course. So I will try to get back to that in earnest. So that's just my way of saying that I'm continually learning from you and being educated by you, and I hope that it can continue going forward. And so with that, there's just this development that's going on, but please don't worry, nothing will change. Everything will be basically the same old stuff. It'll just be you, me, and just talking about what we all love, which is a fun time at the movies, right? And in the end, my friends, that's I think a great thing, because if it's something that makes everyone happy, then I think that's the most important thing. Because it's important to be happy, and it's important to be well, and let's hopefully we can share those feelings going forward. Okay, my dear friends, that's it for me as far as this long-winded announcement. I'm very sorry for the long nature of it. It always goes too long. I have to try to work on that. But if you are accepting of my apologies, then I will hopefully see you again very soon. And please be well, and please take care of yourselves. And yes, see you at the next one. Until we meet again, my friends. Cheers.